You are now watching On the Move with SportzKelz.
I've been running the long run. I've been fighting the good fight.
On the move.
Got my eye on the good prize.
On the move.
So I see him at the finish line.
On the move.
And he all here to get yours.
On the move.
Best believe I'ma get mine.
On the move.
The only one holding me back is me. So I see him at the finish line.
Full speed ahead, cause early bird get the worm or receive the bread. Cause every day it's like a race, from start to finish. And this I can't evade, sip Gatorade till I replenish. I gotta finish, cause I ain't a quitter. I'm from the GOAT, so you already know that I am a getter. Not a sitter, I stand. Not a boy, I'm a man. I'm done talking, I'm playing.
Hey, it's On the Move with SportzKelz. We are back. We just had our expert from Drewski for the huddle. Talked about the 3 college games that was going to be big this week coming up. And now we have our special celebrity guest in studio. Let's give it up for Brian Fogle. Woo! Listen.
Yes.
I got a chance, I say a dream come true. Everybody know I live and breathe Buckeye Nation, and I was able to go to his home and have a candid conversation with Brian. So this kind of I'm going to give you a little synopsis of his summary. He graduated from Beechcroft. He's a Beechcroft Cougar, and 1986. He owns his own landscaping company called Lawn Design and Landscaping Services. He started collecting 25 years ago, so I would probably been like teenager. I would say, yeah, because I'm 47, so I'm looking at like 25, almost 22 years. His timeless pieces, listen, they started back in 1909. There was pieces that were in mint condition back in the 1900s. So I was, profound to see that. His favorite OSU athlete is Archie Griffin.
Right.
Favorite OSU coach is Woody Hayes.
Wow, okay.
And also, I just want to talk about, he did an ESPN segment last week on his Curator collection with College Game Day. So I am glad to be here and have him with us. So again, let's give Mr. Brian Fogle. I call him the biggest curator in the world because his collection needs to be in the Guinness Book of World Records. So let's give it up again for him. Woo! Glad you are here, Brian. Glad. So first off, can we we see some pieces that are here.
Yes.
And we're going to check out the pieces. So, Brian, when did it all begin for you? Started collecting these pieces of, I call them timeless pieces.
I think in the 80s I started collecting stuff, but my true passion came when I was 7 years old. And my grandfather played at Ohio State in the early 50s.
Oh, wow.
So on Saturdays, I'd go watch the game with him because my dad used to always work. He was a mechanic on the north end. He owned his own garage. So my grandpa would come over, pick me up, and he would take me down to the shoe because he lived close. He lived in
That's what I'm
Arlington,
talking about.
So he took me to a game one time, and Archie Griffin was playing, and he took me down to the field when the game was over, and I got to meet my idol, because I always talked about Archie Griffin to my father, and we always asked each other, Dad, is Archie going to get over 100 yards this game? Yep. Because he still has the college record for the most 100-yard games consecutive in a row, 31, which still stands. So my grandfather took me to the game, and I got to meet Woody and Archie, and I kind of compare it to the movie Rudy, the Notre Dame movie.
Yes,
I was
okay.
that little kid in my little Ohio State stuff, my jacket, my shirt, whatever, watching the Ohio State games on TV. And I just started collecting things. Since a little kid, we all have little hobbies. I collected comic books and bottle caps, but as I got a little older in my teens, I started collecting Ohio State stuff. Well, I have a hat, a shirt. And then when I got into my early teens, 20s, I just wanted to volunteer anything I could with Ohio State to be around the football players. Because my dream was always to play at Ohio State, but I never did. And but the next best thing is, I can have a great collection then, So that's how it started.
Excellent.
In my 20s.
So can you remember what your first piece was?
Oh wow! I think it's a trash can. I think it's a Ohio State trash, and I still have it.
Wow.
And I still have my actual jacket when I was 7 years old that I wore, my red jacket. I still have it.
What? Oh my gosh. As a curator for Ohio State memorabilia, take us through the selection process. We kind of talked about that when we met. How are you preparing to add on different, items to your collection that you already have?
Well, I learned the history of Ohio State. There's a real big book that was written by Jack Park, and he's the Ohio State historian. Him and Archie Griffin co-wrote this book called The Encyclopedia of Ohio State Football. And you can pick them up at half-price books or something, and it tells you about the beginning of the time of Ohio State football. So I read that book 2 or 3 times. I call that the Bible of Ohio State football. And I just, when I started collecting seriously collecting in the late 80s, early 90s, and I would volunteer for things called like the Touchdown Club of Columbus, which I went to for like 15 or 20 years, and I got to go pick up these great legends that would fly in, like John Brockington and Jim Marshall and Rex Kern, and I would pick them up and show them around town for the weekend. So they would invite me to, different things and stuff, and I would tell people, that when I started collecting in the 80s, I got to meet all the legends from the 40s up to present. But now, since I've met all these guys, collected all these things, now I'm going from the 40s back to where it just begun in 1890, the beginning of Ohio State football.
So how is that, being able to, like I said, it was one piece we talked about with Jackie Robinson, where it was like Bill Wilters.
Yeah,
he was,
Bill Willis.
Bill Willis. He was and kind of wanted to speak on that because again, we all knew Jackie Robinson as breaking that barrier, and to see his picture there, and he was actually, the African American that actually broke barriers for us to play sports.
Yes. Bill Willis grew up in Columbus, Ohio, and he played at Ohio State in the 40s under Paul Brown, which was Ohio State's first national championship in 1942. And he passed away, unfortunately, in 2008. But I think a year or two before that, I called him up one day, and he lives over here on James and Livingston. So I called him up, and he didn't answer me. I left him a message, and I said, "Hey, Mr. Willis, this is Brian Fogle. I'd really be honored to meet you." I'd be damned. Next day, my phone rang and said, "This is Brian. This is Mr. Willis." So he invited me over to his house, and I'll tell you what, I would never forget that. I brought like 15 or 20 things because he was also a Hall of Famer for the Cleveland Browns. And people don't know this, other than being the first African American to break the color barrier a year before Jackie Robinson did it. But he was the first player ever to be selected to the high school, college, and pro Hall of Fame. All 3. So he's a Hall of Famer for the Cleveland Browns also.
Oh, wow. And that was intriguing to me. Like, it was Jackie Robinson was the big news, but to have a legend right here in Columbus, Ohio.
Bill Willis. That's why his numbers retired at Ohio State Stadium.
Because of that, 1942.
Yes, 1942.
So I know the art of preservation is key throughout the year. So I wanted to kind of talk to you, can tell us about your timeless pieces that you bought with you.
First off, my pride and joy of my collection is my jacket. I bought this in 1990 at JCPenney, and I said, wow, I love that jacket. So I would go to all kinds of charity events and fundraisers, golf outings, whatever, and, I had my jacket with me. So I was like, well, that's a great thing to get signed, So I'd bring Sharpies with me, black or silver, and in 1998, I went to a thing downtown where they honored the top 100 Buckeyes of all time. And this is the first time and only time that they got all these players together from the 40s up to now, like Eddie George, Chris Spielman, Archie Griffin,
a Hall of Fame,
Jack Tatum, every legend that was alive in 1998. And I was the only one that had a jacket. And I made sure there was like 65 of them showed up. And I got them all to sign this. And since 1990, I've carried this thing around with me to probably over 50 or 60 golf outings and charity events. So I've had them all sign it, And
so how many signatures you have on your jacket from the front and the back?
300.
Is that the one that has the block O in the middle?
And the block O is in the middle, the 2014 championship team. So I made a block O in the middle, which I'll show you guys because, of course, I ran out of room. So I was like, well, where am I going to put these guys? Well, they got to go inside the jacket. But I keep a list. I got 2 lists in the inside pocket of all the names. So when I go to an event, a charity event or golf outing, I write down the guy's name so I know exactly who's on there.
Oh, okay.
I've had offers upwards of $10,000 for that jacket, and I turned it down because there's about 20 great legends that are passed away, and every time someone passes away, the price goes up. So.
Oh, wow. So let's talk about your timeless piece here.
Okay, this is something I added this year, and thanks to social media like Facebook and stuff, you can reach out to players, to people that collect. I met a guy that lives in Italy, but he's from the Canton area, Canton, Ohio, and he's been collecting his whole life too, but he's been collecting just vintage antique stuff, that is all the beginning of Ohio State football. You know, the real historic stuff that I've searched for 25 years and never found. So he has a catalog on his Facebook site, and he had these items for sale, and this is the great Chick Harley. He played in 1915, 16, 17, and I think 1919. The reason why we built Ohio State Stadium, because he was so good that people were turned away at Ohio Field to come watch him play. He went to East High here in Columbus. Wow. He never lost a game in high school till his last game. Then he never lost a game in college until his last game. So he won our first Big Ten championship in 1916, and that kind of put Ohio State on the map. So they all, 1916. So they all got together, all the different, guys down at Ohio State, the businessmen, said, well, let's build a stadium. And that's why they call it the house that Harley built, Chick Harley built, Ohio State Stadium.
So this piece right here, is this?
This piece is Kentucky against Ohio State in 1919. This is the one of games Chick Harley played in earlier in the year. This is from, 1914. This is a real piece before even Chick Harley played. This is a real piece of Ohio Field at a Michigan game in about 1910. And then these are real pictures of Chick Harley. And then this is just a Buckeye battle cry that when the song first came out, this is the first book when it came out. For Ohio State's fight song.
Like the book or the program that when they first.
Yeah. This is the first lyrics in the first book when the fight song came out for Ohio State.
Like 19.
In 19, I don't even know the date. I can't even read it with my glasses.
1919 team. Dedicated to the 1919
Yep.
team.
That's when it all begun, the fight song.
Wow. So then we have one more piece.
Yeah, you can just lean it back
Junior.
there. Okay. And this up in the left corner is Chick Harley's last game. On the other corner there, your left hand, there you go. That's Chick Harley's last game against Illinois. That's the only game he lost in college with the ticket stub. This is the picture of him here, and then these are more pictures from 1910 Michigan game, and then this is probably my oldest piece from 1909. 1909. So yeah, that's just some stuff I bought from the guy, that I saw, and we made a deal and shipped the money to him. He sent it to me, and man, I couldn't be more happier when the package came from Italy. I was scared.
So it was from Italy?
Oh yeah, from Italy. I was nervous. I had to get insurance on both of them.
1909.
But this is what sets my collection apart from other people. If you're going to be a real curator or collector, you've got to go back as far as you can to find the history of Ohio State, which is rich in tradition. It's one of the greatest colleges, if not the greatest university in the country. So that's what I try to find, and actually he had a team picture of Ohio State's first team in 1890, but we couldn't get together on prices on that.
1890. So if someone wanted to start curating, because I know I have my own case,
yes.
And I've started collecting some pieces when
yes.
I go to different games.
Yes.
What would be, like I always say, you had timeless pieces. How do you know what's real and what's fake? Because there's so much out there.
Usually I just buy from friends.
Okay.
I have a lot of friends that are in their 70s and 80s, getting on in years, and they have stuff, and I know it's legit because I've met these players for so many times that I know their autographs, and I can trust them because, you do got to watch it because
yes.
sometimes things aren't what they think to be, you know what I mean? There's always going to be fakes out there. And you got to watch eBay too, so.
Yeah, because on eBay, Clayton,
yeah.
I know you do something else because I have it. It is
yes.
actually, he does figurines. And he makes those by hand, and he paints them. So I wanted to kind of talk to you about that and kind of explain. And
I make these little 6-inch figurines. I hand paint them, and then you got a computer program that prints out the decals and numbers. And I met a guy 5 years ago in Columbus. He's in his late 70s, and he set up a little table and had all these little figurines, all hand painted, High State guys. And I was like, wow, I've never seen those before, And so over the last 3 or 4 years, I purchased several from him. So now I have like 50 or 60 from him. So, my business is seasonal. In the winter, I'm shut down, because I have a lawn care business. So he lives up in that state up north, which I can't say. So I do painting. I do interior painting. So he paid me to paint his inside of his house last winter. So I stayed down. He put me up in his house for 4 days, and I stayed down in his Buckeye room, which was well furnished, nice bathroom, bed, and everything. So, you know, I painted his whole upstairs, and after, you know, I get done after 5, and then, you know, I go downstairs, and he would break it on down, how to do all the steps of painting them. So now I've made over 120 of my own. And I found this cutting board at Bed Bath & Beyond, and it's the shape of Ohio, the state. It's a big, thick cutting board. So I don't know if you ever heard of the Fab Four. That was Archie Griffin, Cornelius Green, Brian Bashnagel, and Pete Johnson. So I put them all together on a cutting board, all painted, you know, decorated the board. I put Steve Myers, the All-American center, and I put Cornelius Green handed off to Archie, and I made 4 of those. And I presented Archie Griffin his last Friday night before the Oklahoma game. I gave Cornelius his last week. I'll give Pete Johnson his this Saturday at the game, and I'm going to send one to Brian Bashnagel. He lives in Chicago.
Wow. And that's what was so, you know, for me, surreal. Like, before we knew it, we had been down there talking for like almost 2 hours because, again, if you are a true Buckeye fan and to hear someone from the fans' perspective, but also knowledgeable, I mean, you had so much. Like, and then to see the new players coming up, like the Cardells and the Ezekiels and the JTs. I mean, he has jerseys. So it's like when you go to these different events, you know, sometimes are they willing to sign?
You got to be real careful. I'm thankful and blessed to know some people through some other people, you know, to get me in.
Okay.
But you got to watch it now unfortunately, because of the tattoo scandal in 2010 under Trussell. They're very leery because they either think you're selling the stuff on eBay, you know, trying to profit off Ohio State, or you're an agent trying to get money from them, and they're just protective of their players. So I've been asked to leave a few things, you know what I mean, a few events, you know, because they're just protecting their players. So, yes.
So we're going to ask the crowd if you're able to, and if they want to ask a
sure,
question.
Sure.
So we have any crowd has a question?
Yes.
Okay.
I seen a picture years ago where Ohio State played their first game, and it was the game that you mentioned in 1890.
Okay.
The park is now occupied by a giant eagle on East Whittier.
Yes.
Do you have a picture of that park in your collection?
Well, I have a picture of Ohio Field. That's what it was called. There's actually a couple in this one down here in the corner. Right. That's Ohio Field.
Okay. The other question that I have for you is, seeing as though that you're one of the biggest memorabilia collectors here for Ohio State, at any time had you ever received, or do you have a Big Ten championship ring and or national championship ring?
You know what? That is a treasure that's beyond treasures. I've actually had a couple offers to buy a couple, but I haven't. But something yesterday I was blessed with, but I want to show you guys. I was saving as a surprise. If you want to hold this, I want to show you guys. This has been on my bucket list of Ohio State, and I finally got them after 25 years. A pair of gold pants.
Got it. Wow.
Gold pants are for when you beat Michigan.
Yes.
Wow.
I got a pair yesterday.
Wow.
This is for the 1998 Ohio State-Michigan game when we beat them.
Wow.
Yes, Joe Jermaine.
I was at that game. You guys are welcome to pass them around.
That is awesome.
And
I gotta take a picture
I've
of
been
that.
looking for a pair
Yes.
of those since I've begun.
Let me take a picture of that. Those goals.
Wow. All right, our next.
Got the gold.
I know.
Bob, you want to touch
All right,
those?
next question. Anybody have a question? What? Because we have a. Okay. You have a lady in the back.
Do you have any tickets? Like, do you save your tickets?
Yes,
when you,
Yes.
like, what is the oldest ticket that you have?
It's in this frame right here, 1919. Chick Harley's last game, 1919. Ticket stub to the game and the program.
Yes.
Which I think
The
I
program?
paid, which I paid $17.50 for those two things. So yeah, that's the oldest ticket stub I have, and there's even older ones.
Well, listen, I thank you for your time. Again, I could have been at his house for hours, because this is not even just like half of it. And like I said, he had shoes, he had the.
Okay, I do have a question.
You got a
Sorry to cut
question?
you off, Tanya. So what's the most expensive item that you have right now?
I would have to say my jacket.
Okay.
Yeah, that's priceless.
Yeah, I said that would be priceless. Yeah, he has, and it's not, that's one of them, but he has like 3 others.
I have actually 4 jackets. And I have one that's just all Americans. Then I have one that just has a bunch of great.
We are back. Just to kind of recap the first half, we had the huddle, we had the fantasy doctor was in, we talked about the strike. Now, I mean, what can you say about Brian Fogle?
Hey, man. Hey, that was, having a chance to take pictures with them gold pants.
Right.
Man, that was priceless.
So just see those timepieces to actually be able to go to his house. And you can see history from 1909. And again, when you talked about Bill Willis, I met his son at the Dayton Troutwood game. So I kind of heard it, and then I kind of did my research, like, you know, all you knew was Jackie Robinson. So to be able to hear that, and he be Ohio legend, and then to go to his house and see those timeless pieces. And that's what I said, they were timeless pieces. So again, let's give it up for Brian Fogle. Woo! Yes.
Shout out to my man,
Yes,
Brian.
for actually just get honored and blessed to have him on the show on the Move with SportzKelz. Because when you get ESPN, and you come to On the Move with SportzKelz the next week,
That's
listen,
big. That's big.
That's faith and favor. Faith and favor. So moving forward, we're gonna still, we're just gonna keep this going. What we gonna talk about now? Listen, where were you at this weekend,
Hey,
Fred?
I was a little bit all over the place this weekend.
Right, you was all over the place.
I gotta first do a recap. Your man Freddie J. Gotta do a recap. High school football, City League, Week 4 recap. Very surprising this week. There were 3 teams in the City League that was undefeated, and I was anxious to see if those 3 teams are going to remain undefeated after Week 4. And so far, my projection has been right. And going into Week 5, y'all, we have 3 City League schools that are still undefeated, all coming from the City League South Division. Those schools are Independence, I-High at 4-0.
I-High.
Then you got Marion Franklin, of
Red
course,
Devils.
4-0. And then you got Warner Ridge at 4-0. So Warner Ridge, and basically, y'all sleeping on Warner Ridge this year. Hey, Marion Franklin had a big, and the main thing was all 3 schools were on the road this week. So I was looking to see if there was going to be any upsets, and sorry to say, there was no letdown from both schools, from all 3 schools. Marion Franklin, they handled business on the road at Apple-Centric 44-12.
Okay.
Independence, they whipped up on Briggs, went to Briggs, beat them 56-10. Warner Ridge, and they beat West High School 31-22 out west. And like I said, I'm telling y'all, it's coming down. It's going to come down, and I'm so looking forward. And actually, this week, I'm actually profiling the game of the week in the city is going to be Walnut Ridge at Eastmore High, which I'm sure Miss SportzKelz over here, she's an Eastmore alum, so I'm knowing she's going to be looking at that. But I'm looking, Eastmore is coming into this game at 2-2 this week. Walnut Ridge going on the road in a hostile environment. 4-0. I'm looking to get out to those schools within the next 2 days, talk to the coaches, talk to the players, get everybody's, take on this week's big matchup. So, it's going to be a huge
Everybody
matchup.
gonna be there at that
so
game.
I'm looking forward to going out to that school and looking at those 2 teams play. Eastmore has always been a powerhouse in the City League South. Walnut Ridge is not disappointing. They have stepped up and had a rebound season after last year of falling short. Hey, I'm going out there, covering, giving y'all the latest in that big game this week. But I'm letting y'all know right now, mark your calendars down, which I think is going to determine the city this year. And if it all plays out, it's going to be Week 9, October 20th, when Walnut Ridge travels. Who are they playing? When Walnut Ridge travels to Marion Franklin on October 20th, that is going to be the game of the year. And I predict both of those teams will be undefeated going into that game, going for the city. So I'm looking forward to it. That's a big wrap up with the high school City League this week. Hey man, I was so honored and privileged
Central State,
to go back to my alma mater, class of 1999, see Central State University. Got another one of my Central State alum here.
93's in the building.
Man, it was so great going back home, seeing
Yes,
a
it
lot of
was.
people that I hadn't seen in years.
The
It was a
history.
great, that's the history, the pageantry of Central State University. And I had such a good time last week talking to the AD, some of the players that I got a chance to interview, and then even talking to Coach Pearl the day
Okay.
of the game. Very insightful. He's been there. This is his 4th season now.
So how was that, talking to the coach?
Hey, man, I like Coach Pearl and the direction that he's going
Okay.
into. The program was just coming off a competition being suspended since 2006. It was about 2006. They came back about 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay.
He's in the process of trying to rebuild the program to the dominance of what it was back in the early 90s.
In the early 90s, baby.
People don't realize Central State University Marauders have always had an excellence as far as being HBCU top
Right.
football programs in the country. Even though we don't get a lot of love, a lot of the down south
No.
schools, Grambling, Southern, you know,
'Cause they got
Morehouse.
HBCU of the year.
Yeah,
Central
you know,
State
we
did.
actually,
Say that
yes.
again?
Yeah.
Central State University
Got
was
HBCU.
nominated HBCU
CU of the year,
of the year.
Hey,
That's
man.
huge.
Yeah,
I'm saying who like I didn't know. Y'all
yeah.
better know what's
Yeah,
going
you
on
better
in
know.
Greene County.
So I was a proud alumni when I heard that, and just going back, always, we fell short. We 0-3, fell short to Morehouse in a thrilling game. It was 35-33. We had our chances. Coach Pearl was like, it was a tough loss, but they had their chances. Couldn't quite capitalize on some of the things that they had to actually
What
win
was
the
the
game.
takeaway? Like your 2 takeaways?
My 2 takeaways is they're very young because he's still, putting his
Okay.
stamp on the program. They got some talent over there. They got some athletes. We did have a backup kicker in the game, which he missed a couple of extra points, and that came back to cost us in the game. Overall, I felt the offense was in good spirits out there. They were making plays. Got to shore up the defense a little bit. Defense
Okay.
kind of gave up a little bit too many big plays, but overall, I was very pleased with what I saw out of the Marauders this past year. Each year, he has won more and more games. He has won one more game than he's did the past year. First year, he only won 4 games. And the next, last he only won 5 games. So now if they keep building and keep getting his recruits in, I believe that Central State University, Marauder football will be back to where it was in the mid-90s. And you all know, when you go to an HBCU school,
Right.
you cannot not talk about the halftime show.
So how was that halftime show?
At HBCU land, halftime is game time. And you already know my Central
The
State.
Invincible Marching
The
Marauders,
Invincible
baby.
Right.
Marching
So did
Marauders.
they march through the field?
Yeah, they
Down
marched.
to-
They
from
marched
the,
to
from the
field.
yard.
Yeah, I got all the coverage on my
Okay.
sports page. They marched through the field. Hey, I cannot
Wait
take
till homecoming.
in a couple weeks.
October
first,
7th.
In a couple weeks, y'all want to
And we
come
will be
out
there.
for the homecoming.
On the
and
move with
see Central State
SportzKelz will be
University.
there homecoming.
Man.
But first of all, they're going to be at Circle City Classic.
Yes, we are going to be at the Circle City Classic this weekend in Indianapolis. And of all teams, y'all, we are
Kentucky
playing
State.
our rival Kentucky State. If you're a Central State alum, Kentucky State alum, y'all know how it
Right.
goes
It's gonna
down
go
when
down.
those 2 schools play. So we, SportzKelz team, we going to be out there this weekend, bringing y'all live coverage out there. I'm so excited. And like I said, SportzKelz, that halftime show that I can't take nothing away from Morehouse. Morehouse marching, band. They go into the House of Funk with
They
the
do it.
mahogany bells that they got with their
Okay.
dancers. Man, they represented
They
down
represent.
south.
So they
at
brought it.
ATL.
Did they bring it to the OHIO?
I was a little bit skeptical, but they came with it.
They came with it.
But again, them invincible marching Marauders, Central State University marching
Okay.
band, held it down as they always do, and we still the baddest HBCU
Yeah,
school
2017.
marching band in the land. I said
Yep.
it here, the baddest. And you already know. You already know being an alum. We the baddest in the land.
Visible. So again,
For God, for Central, for State. There it is.
There it
Hey,
is.
so like I said, y'all want to come check us out this weekend? Hey, you already know. You know
So
how we
again,
do.
we're gonna be out there, Central State University against
Yes.
KSU,
This weekend.
and Indianapolis. They
Yes.
taking over. HBCU is
Yes.
taking over Indy,
It's
and then
gonna be
we'll be
deep.
there October the 7th. Once Central State they'll be back at home playing for the homecoming. So
October
next
7th.
couple weeks is Central State. We have the
Yes.
privilege and thank you and honor for Nick Novy for
Novy.
allowing us to, be a part of the media and cover Central State, HBCU,
Jahan Colbert,
and Jahan. So
the new athletic director. Hey man, it was so. I had such a great feeling just being back home, seeing old people stomping
was
grounds.
great.
It was a great atmosphere. I'm looking for Marauderland to come out this week for
Let's go.
classic homecoming. Hey, we gonna see y'all there. It's your man.
So
Freddie
thank
J
you, Freddie
with
J,
that
for that wrap up with that Friday night score. Listen, we just gonna keep moving on. Listen, I love this segment because again, I get my hair cut every week, and I call them the country clubs of Columbus. And if you go to a barbershop or beautician, you go to the barbershop.
Yes.
And people are like, you go to the beautician to get your hair cut? Absolutely not. I go to the barbershop to get my hair cut because they talk about everything from the ladies to the sports weapon on Friday night. So without further ado, we got Vez from Barber Zone is here.
What's
giving
going
us
on,
some
y'all?
barbershop talk.
The Barber Zone
man,
is on SportzKelz, y'all.
Yes.
What's going on?
So what you do? I mean, you was out and about too this weekend.
Hey, man, hey, I ain't just a barber, man. I'm a real sports fan.
Yeah.
I mean, a real sports fan. And if y'all don't know, I love sports, man.
Yeah, we live
That's
and
why I
breathe
can come
it.
here. So,
Yes.
hey, y'all, I'm gonna tell y'all where I've been in the last month.
Dude, like, yeah.
I've been to the Browns I've been to the Browns and
Okay.
the Giants.
Okay.
Browns and Giants.
Preseason.
Then y'all see this right here.
Oh, blackout.
I had the honor of getting some Marauder love
You already know.
of going to Busch Stadium
Okay.
and seeing my St. Louis Cardinals from behind the scenes, down on the field. And what? I just came back from seeing them Minnesota Vikings, man, in Pittsburgh. I mean,
I wanted y'all to win that game.
hey, y'all, it was I wanted us to win too. It was actually, the game was better than what I thought it would be. Now that we have to deal with Case Keenum.
Oh, is he the quarterback?
Yeah, he's the
Right.
quarterback now. Bradford's got a little ailment, and I was excited at the game. I actually went with the Steelers Nation representing the Vikings. I was the only one there.
You was the only one there.
Out of my mouth.
So how?
We lost the game, but as far as the Vikings look real good right now.
Yeah.
I mean, the offensive play calling was real good. Some execution wasn't there because, you don't have that continuity between.
I'm saying it right now.
Okay,
I'm saying it right now.
on the
Kyrie's
court-
better than Isaiah Thomas.
What does everybody say in the barbershop about it? Like Kyrie, Isaiah with that whole
Isaiah has
trade.
more-
Treat that dude like he's from the state up north.
He said,
No love for Kyrie, man. What do you want? I mean, they asked him what did he want, and he couldn't give a direct answer. He was sitting there looking like a deer in headlights, like he didn't know they was gonna ask him these questions.
Right.
Because Stephen A. said, "Hey, man, we gonna talk about this elephant in the room, man. Is it a problem between you and LeBron?" Well, I played with more people than LeBron. Why are you
So,
just
yeah.
asking about him? Dude,
Because that was your boy.
that
Right.
was so-called your boy.
Right. Who helped get you to a championship.
Help get you
listen.
there because you've been there 4 years.
couldn't do
When
it.
you were there by yourself,
couldn't do
it.
you couldn't do it. Stephen A. even asked him, he even said to him, how did you feel when you knew LeBron was coming back to Cleveland to play with you?
And still signed the contract extension.
And still,
So that's gonna be your homework next week when you go to the barber. When you go back to the barbershop.
Right, when we
need
come to the
find
barbershop,
out.
that's what we're going to talk
Yeah, we're
about.
gonna need for you to find out and let us know.
Right.
So again,
what's
man.
going on with the Cavs? But to wrap this up, I still think the Cavs will be good as long. Here's my asterisk, and this has been the asterisk for the past couple years. If our big men in the center, in the middle of the defense, are healthy. If they're not healthy, teams are gonna keep running to the rim like Kevin Durant did. If we don't have anybody there,
don't
I
have
don't care
nobody
if
in
I
there.
don't care if it's
Right.
LeBron and Iverson and Kobe and all of them out there. If nobody's there to protect the rim, you're not gonna win.
Not gonna win.
Absolutely.
So, hey, man, y'all in the Barber Zone. Hey,
That's how it goes. down in the
ChavezMoment.com, ChavezMoment.com,
Listen, he gave all his
CHEVEZ,
social media.
MOMAN.com. We need to come
We
get
just
your hair
gonna
right.
keep it rolling.
Keep it going
Man,
here.
let's
Keep
give
it
up
going.
for Chavez in the Barber Zone. That's why I love it, because that's the country club barbershop talk.
We love it. We love it. We love it.
Listen, I didn't know about my fantasy league. What is happening? happening. So the fantasy doctor, let's bring it.
Let's get it. Let's get it. So I
let's
know
get
we've been
it.
talking about this basketball, but you know what? It's all about the football here. You know what I'm saying? So check it out. So I'm the fantasy doctor. All I talk is fantasy football. I don't know, talk about the NFL too. So fantasy football is a different monster than just the NFL.
Right.
So now, you know, those who don't know about fantasy football, it's $1 billion industry. Everybody's playing it. If you're not playing it, come holler at me. Come see me at Fantasy Football Doc on Instagram or on Facebook. So here we go. So for those that don't know, we got Monday Night Football. The question is Odell Beckham playing? He's active on tonight. Minimize your expectation tonight, folks. I understand it might be a little bit too late to start him. He's usually a top 5 pick. But I would still start him just because he is Odell. He changes the offense. He might get you 5 receptions and maybe about 60 yards, depending on the offense, a touchdown. They're playing against the Detroit Lions on tonight, so I would still start him regardless. But however, on yesterday, we had some major key injuries on yesterday. Greg Olsen. He's a number 2 tight end in fantasy football world. He's out for 6 to 8 weeks due to a broken foot. That's a big fantasy impact. Those who have Cam Newton, I'm telling you, he's been playing very bad. Sit him. Sit him. Kevin Benjamin, sit him. Until you can see how the offense looks in that realm, sit him. All right. Then Calvin Benjamin. He's the number 1 wide receiver. Then we got Gronk. Those who don't know, he had a humongous game yesterday. However, it was only for 3 quarters because he also left the game with a groin injury. ESPN reported that. Gronk.
Did he ever stay healthy?
Gronk. ESPN reported that he said he's fine. Don't worry about it. But we know how Gronk's injury goes about.
He's never healthy.
He's usually start out, I'm fine, and then when he gets to playing, he get out, then he's out for 2 to 5 weeks. So he's active. He said he's fine. He's fine. But you always monitor that. Jordy Nelson last night against the Atlanta Falcons. He hurt his quad on last night. That's huge. Everybody was trying to figure out why Aaron Rodgers was playing the way he was playing. He lost his number 1 wide receiver.
He won the game last night.
Atlanta Falcons blew them out.
Really?
Yes, they did. Also on the running back stage, we have Rob Fat Kelly from the Washington Redskins. He got put out on yesterday because of some ribs. Not too many people is looking for him for big numbers, but however, he's a starting running back. Monitor that also. Now, back to my Minnesota Vikings, as my man down there stated, Sam Bradford. Yes, he was out a late scratch because of knee injury. A knee injury. I know that was a big fantasy impact because those who have Dalvin Cook as a running back and Stephon Diggs and Thielen and Kyle Rudolph, huge impact. So therefore, Case Keenum, I wouldn't trust it. I wouldn't trust it. So minimize. You start him. Start them with caution. All right. So with that being said, we got waiver pickups. I have a couple waiver pickups. So if you have your Sam Bradford issues or you have your Cam Newton issue, where I'm telling you, I would bench him. Trevin Simeon. Y'all say what he did to Dallas, unfortunately. Yes. You got to understand. They're moving the ball. They run the ball very well. Who would you rather have? Case Keenum?
Right. Or somebody who's going to give me some points.
You see what I'm saying? Right now, without your quarterback, you need points. Right. So go on your waiver wire. That's key to fantasy football. You got to look at your waiver wire. See who's out there. Pick them up. Okay, also I was mentioned about Rob Kelly from the Washington Redskins. Pick up Buck Allen from the Ravens. He's the new Danny Woodhead for the Ravens right now. Okay. Not Terrence West. He's going to get his carries, but for a PPR, points per reception, you want your Buck Allen type of player because you know why? You get it receiving and you get it on the ground. He had a great game on yesterday. Keep it moving. Wide receiver, if you're struggling at wide receiver, you need some help because your Odell Beckham situation or Kelvin Benjamin, all that. Randall Cobb, why not stay with the Green Bay Packers?
Wow.
Because he had at least 8 targets last night just because Jordy Nelson, he just hit it on himself. Because of Jordy Nelson's injury, Randall Cobb, you have Adams, but I like personally Randall Cobb because he's always getting those bubble screens. He gets those quick, and he'll go deep on you.
But I also think for the Packers though, I like Ty Montgomery. You know what I'm saying? He can also do running back, and he's also a wide receiver as well too. So I just feel he can give you the double threat.
So who was an outstanding performer?
See, actually, a person like Ty Montgomery, he's already picked. He's not going to be on your waiver wire. If he's still on your waiver wire, something's wrong. But Randall Cobb, he should still be out there because he's technically the 3rd wide receiver by Adams, Jordy Nelson, and then it's him. Ain't nobody thinking about that. He might be picked up in a 10 or 14 league, but a 12 league, but a 10 league, he should still be out there. Check your waiver wires. And then also at tight end, I just named you 2. Greg Olsen, big hit, huge hit. But however, Ben Watson from the Ravens.
Yeah, he used to be.
The reason why, I mean, really, Joe Flacco's bad back. You watch their offense, they're doing a lot of running and quick dumps.
Yes.
Quick dumps. Ben Watson had 8 receptions for 91 yards for a tight end. That's a lot.
Yes, he did.
For a tight end. Keep in mind, go ahead and get him open. So therefore, let's go ahead. We talked about who had the bug and who's struggling. Let's talk about real quick as I close the outstanding performance on Sunday.
All right.
Yours, Tom Brady. Yeah. Why not you say that? I mean, he was mad. 447 yards and 3 touchdowns. Point blank, he was just mad. Sorry to say it, those Dallas Nation, but C.J. Anderson, 25 carries, 118 yards, 35 receptions, and 2 touchdowns. Wow. It was no fluke. Listen. Though last year, it was really skeptical about his performance last year, but right now he has something to prove. So great performance. Wide receiver Michael Crabtree with 6 receptions, 80 yards, 3 touchdowns, guys.
Wow.
3.
He's always productive.
3 touchdowns. Have the nerve to stiff on a lot of cats and take it to the end zone. Hey, actually at the end of the day though, that was just an amazing performance. Don't get too high. That's not going to be every week, guys.
Where's Michael Crabtree playing for?
For the Oakland Raiders. That is still Omari Cooper's man. He is the man there, and you still got beast mode. All right, then keep it moving. Tight end at Gronk. Only for 3 quarters, he was still one of the top tight ends in fantasy on this past Sunday. 6 receptions, 106 yards, a touchdown. But you know what? This one really hurts right here. Eric can understand, but also Travis Kelce. 8 receptions, 103 yards, a touchdown, and dove from the 5-yard line to seal the victory for the Kansas City Chiefs over our Philadelphia Eagles.
I like Kelce, though.
I've
always liked Kelce.
With Travis Kelce, I will admit he is a cocky son of a gun. I love it though. You know what I'm saying? He makes the Kansas City Chiefs go. You know what I'm saying? He's that instant hothead, but you want that instant hothead on your team though, because again, once he gets going, he can't stop. You know what I'm saying? Unfortunately, my team played him yesterday. We couldn't win, but nobody could stop him. He had 7 receptions for like 103 yards, a touchdown, and he was mocking us too. He did the bird on us. He did the bird. I couldn't hate on that.
All right. So last but not least, here's a little small thing in fantasy football. People forget about defense. Defense wins games even in fantasy football, those who don't know that. And yesterday, welcome back Tampa Bay Buccaneers. After the chat, who to start, who not to start at fantasyfootball.com. Listen, we on the move with SportzKelz. Holla at your boy.
The fantasy doctor.
That segment
was Fantasy doctor.
He helped me with mine.
I got a question. I missed it. I think I missed it earlier. Have we talked about what happened with them Denver people?
With them what people?
Them people out in Denver. How the Cowboy got bucked off the Bronco last night. Did we talk about that yet?
I mean, those who have started.
That's all I want. That's all I want to know. I mean,
we gonna talk about that later. We gonna talk about that later.
We're going to talk about that later.
I mean, people want to talk. I mean, this is SportzKelz, right?
Yes, I'm biased.
And in the barbershop, we talked about that too. How the Cowboy got bucked off the Broncos yesterday. I mean, what happened?
You know, to me, it was they got out coached.
I was on the way back from the game, so I didn't see it. I just heard they was bucking.
Yeah, they was. And then
like you was in the bar riding a mechanical bull or something.
Were not getting to their assignments. It was all over just a disaster.
It was just blame it on the rain because they had an hour and a half delay. So therefore,
they just stopped playing.
Blame it on the game. You might want to blame it on the game.
Yeah, and then Ezekiel he stopped playing. But again, to me, it was just they got out coached. And I watched the game. They just did not execute the plays. They did not come ready to play. And I think, you know how sometimes when you see teams that you already think, oh, I'm going to win, and you get blowed out because you just assume that I'm going to win this game.
Them?
Yeah,
they overlooked them?
Yeah, to me, they just completely overlooked them. And they didn't seem prepared to play. And they didn't. They because I would have if you would have said on the average person who would have won against the Broncos.
So what do you
Broncos?
So
Broncos.
No.
At Mile High?
If any
Mile High, Broncos.
No.
If any what distraction do you think the Ezekiel thing is having on the team?
It's having an effect. And I think it's having an effect on them because it's allowing them, you know, it's so much like again, he got off, he's able to play until the case goes all the way through the court system. So I think now you have all these media, you know, and players wanting to ask their picks, and it's almost to where they're scrutinizing the whole team. So it's like you can't move the way they're used to moving. And they're playing, like now, to me, they're playing a second step. And then Ezekiel is not, his head wasn't even in the game because, again, you're dealing with a court case, and then you got to go. And I'm not taking nothing from the Broncos because they just flat out played us from the time they kicked off that ball till it went to 0.
Okay, here's one more. I've seen this. I mean, all this is with the Cowboys. What about what Jerry Jones is saying about the new contract that's coming up for the commissioner?
He was trying to sidestep.
Because Jerry Jones, I mean, he just,
he's
you know, he is a businessman. When I got to meet him at the Hall of Fame, he's a businessman. Me and Fred got to meet him. He is business first. And some things, and sometimes you see from the media's perspective, there's always an angle. Because you look at it, Ezekiel is still playing.
Exactly.
If it had been anybody else, he would have not played.
He would have not played,
That's when you're dealing with a coach that has his hand not just in here, he is dealing with the Raiders stadium. You dealing with...
He's dealing with everything.
Yeah, he's everywhere. So he's able to make moves that other... I would say owners can't because you got the owner, the GM, they all under one umbrella, and that's Jerry Jones. But sometimes it kind of hinders the players, and then with the contracts and things, there's always an angle. But again, it's gonna play out. You know, either it's gonna be a bust for Dallas, or they're gonna regroup, and they're gonna have to regroup fast. Because again, you're putting Dax in the forefront, where he's usually, if you looked at Mississippi, you know, he was used to like kind of moving on his own pace. Now you gotta move at his beat. And I don't know if he was ready for that. So we're going to see next week.
We're going to see. I was actually listening to.
But before we even go, because we about to roll, listen, the top rope, this fight, this is going to be my first little segment. The key matchup between, everybody kept saying it was the fight of the century, and I don't even know what it came about because I didn't even really hear it.
Because it's been one.
And I guess because again the boxing is not like it was.
It's like
UFC.
Boxing. This match has been. They've been trying to get this match to go on for like the last 2 years.
Yeah, 2 years for that.
Because you know they keep Canelo's winning, Triple G's winning, but you know it's all about the promoters and all. You know because you have Oscar who's promoting Canelo, and you have I believe Bob Arum controlling Triple G. You know. Oscar and Bob Arum, you know, Bob Arum used to manage Oscar back in the day, but they had a big falling out like a couple years ago or so.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So you know, with those two, with Golden Boy Productions and Bob Arum stuff, you know, so it was just like, you know, we got to come to a middle ground. You know what I'm saying? At most of the day, it's all about money.
Now, well, what was the controversy?
Well, this is what it was. Both weighed in at 160 on September the 15th, which they said hasn't really been done. Like they were right at their weight limit.
Right. It was like it was like at a catch weight.
Yeah, like a catch. And then Triple G was 37-0, Canelo was 49-1. So they said most of it because their boxing styles were so similar and so close that they had that same type of style of fighting. So they was more wanting to find out who was stronger. And as you saw it didn't start to really come about until it got later on into the match. You started to see those strong hits. The fight, they're talking about the belts. Like, I know they said 3, but then there was 2 more that were added on. Like, it was the linear middleweight championship, and then there was a Ring magazine middleweight title.
It was for Triple G's belts.
Triple G belts? Okay. So they kind of stayed, and then it was a sold-out crowd. It was in Vegas. It was only like 22,000 people. So that kind of was intriguing to me because, again, everything they talked about today in even after the fight was everything is going to UFC. Conor is kind of monopolizing that boxing because they want to see real fighting, and you're only getting that now in UFC.
Right.
So that was why, for me, when they talked about, they kept saying, "Oh, it was hype." How? If you really didn't have DirecTV, you really didn't know anything about it because there was really not a lot, even on social media. Usually with Conor, it was everywhere you turn. There was McGregor and Mayweather. So I don't know if it was just a part of
because Mayweather promoted it so much. He was
promoting everything.
They put a tour together for that. You know what I mean?
They put a tour.
Can't beat a tour.
Now I gotta ask a quick question. What was the controversy?
Because the controversy was.
We'll talk about that in the ring.
The end of the ring, but the face of boxing was like the life after the fiasco. So they was talking about how Mayweather's fight to Conor, and then you talked about Triple G and about there wasn't really. It was over. They said their little things, and it was like, what I'm saying, even the next day.
With the Mayweather McGregor fight, it was just all a spectacle. You can't
really
say that.
It was all hype.
But that was why, even with the media, they talked about the fight on Saturday, and then when I woke up Sunday morning to kind of do my work on it and research, it was like you had to look. It wasn't really already available, except for what you're gonna talk about, which was with the scorecards. So the scorecards were that right there.
Where's the regulations in boxing, man?
I'll get it.
Where's the credentials in boxing, man?
Like, what is the credentials?
We need to get those.
Because they talked about how the fight, and then Lennox Lewis, he went instantly to Twitter because I stay on Twitter, and he was like, where do we go?
Right.
And even Antonio Tarvez, he was like, boo. He was like, this ain't boxing. He was like, what are you doing? He said, who is this lady? Why are we scoring? Like Alvarez, he got $5 million. Triple G got $3 million. So even that was like kind of lopsided with the money. But it was like, who's scoring fights? He said,
right. So
what?
Who's ref
So what was y'all take on it?
Oh my God!
Like a quick take, a quick synopsis of what was your take on it?
118 to 110. What fight was she watching?
Yeah, that's what I said. What was she watching?
What was she watching? Cause
them last 5 rounds.
No way could. Was she even at the fight?
Yeah.
That right there is just That's asinine. That you have somebody that sees the fight totally, completely different than the other 2 boxers, and probably the rest of the country, the rest of the world, really.
Yeah. So it's an upset.
It should have been.
It's Triple G should have won.
Triple
G should have won the fight.
Like I said,
So what about you, E? Because we watched it here at the SportzKelz Lounge.
Yeah, we did watch it at the SportzKelz Lounge. Like I said, all that you're speaking of, I'm about to go ahead and get into that here in a moment here about Adelaide Bird. So
Adelaide.
So we'll talk about it here in a minute. I'll address it my way.
It was just.
Not yet.
It was just like, wow, like, are we really, who is scoring this fight? And that's what it was. And they still didn't talk about it as much as you thought they were, even about the draw. It was like a draw. Right. So for me, my question to you all is, where do they go now?
Rematch.
I'll say my opinion for later.
So what you
rematch.
Think, Drew? What do you think? What do you think? You think it's gonna be a rematch?
Of course.
Sooner or later?
Of course. It's a moneymaker. Come on, man. This.
Right?
No.
I didn't see his. I can't speak.
Golden Boy Entertainment, they trying to get that money.
Yeah, because Triple G, he retained all his middleweight titles.
Nothing changed.
Yeah, it never changed.
Nothing changed.
Because even his face when the end of the fight, it was like,
what?
When they first said the score,
he could have
118 to 110, the whole crowd just erupted like, what?
Now, how was the undercard? Was there an undercard fight?
There was like 4 fights.
4 undercards, and they were really good. You know, again, you know how when you get the undercard, you get the lower end. It was really good.
It was actually a good promoted.
Yeah.
It was a good boxing production.
So it was better
overall. Yes, that we've seen
Yeah.
in years to me, because I like the boxing. I like the old school boxing.
Right.
So this new boxing, I'd rather watch UFC. And that's where I've actually started to love, and started to follow UFC the last 2 years because of how boxing, it was just Mayweather and it's all the showboating. Like, you talking about Muhammad Ali, even Mike Tyson, they had a certain level of showboating, but it was still professionalism. You got him on, just with the Twitter post that he put with all the girls and the money, and you got David Chappelle like, really, dude? Like, really? So it's like you have all this showboating, and then you get away from the real fight. So UFC, they come and they about their business. They come in, they ready to fight. You have your undercards and you have your main fight.
Dana's not playing that. Dana's not playing that in the UFC.
No, they're not playing that showboat.
No, he's not playing that. Let's get the business, let's put out a good product, and let's keep it moving.
Yes, and they put out great product, even from the women's side.
You are now watching On the Move with SportzKelz.
I've been running the long run. I've been fighting the good fight. Got my eye on the good prize. So I see you at the finish line. And you're here to get yours. Best believe I'ma get mine. The only one holding me back is me. So I see you at the finish line.
Full speed ahead, cause early bird get the worm or receive the bread. Cause every day it's like a race from start to finish. And this I can't evade, so Gatorade till I replenish.